Hello, YouTube. I'm just waiting for TikTok to turn up. Oops. Okay, so I do half of, hello, people are turning up. I do half of the live on TikTok and then the other half on Instagram, not always in that order. So I'm 30 minutes on TikTok now, and then I'll move over to Instagram. But YouTube will go the whole time. So that's where all of my lives are saved. Okay. Oh, gosh, I'm achy today. I'm doing a lot of weird stuff at the gym, so my body's screaming. Okay. So, what was I going to say? I feel like I was just going to say something, and I have no memory of what that was. Anyway, okay, so let's just get going with your parenting questions. You can check the link above for all my courses, my free behavior board. My big boot camp course is 25% off during the Black Friday long weekend here. No, Black Friday is not a long weekend, but it is in America. In Canada here, we already had our Thanksgiving. So anyway, so I've got a Black Friday sale on right now with my boot camp course, if you've been looking at that and you want to get a deal on that. So that's all the link above. And then my coaching is also up there. Don't forget that free behavior board, though. That sort of explains to you how you set up rules and consequences. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. I'm also filming on YouTube at the same time. That's where I save all of these lives. And then I'll be moving over to Instagram after 30 minutes on here. I split them in half now. It's funny because I've got a much bigger audience here, but I get the same amount of people in lives, and I get way bigger views on Instagram. I can't figure it out. I don't understand all this, but whatever. Okay, so Instagram and TikTok are kind of on par these days. So that's why I split up the lives. Okay, so what are your parenting questions? It's like people actually have their real names here. Usually it's user something or whatever. Okay, so parenting questions, fire away. Oh, we've only got 20 people on here so far. It's a weird time. I never know when I'm turning up. This is not one of my regularly scheduled lives. So never know when I'm turning up. Oh. Okay, so parenting questions. I'm just waiting. Hello, Kaylee. I was going to make myself a cup of tea, but every time I make a cup of tea for a live, I never drink it. So I didn't bother. Then I have to reheat it, and then the bag has a staple in it, and I have to take that out before I microwave it. See, I'm just nattering on because I got no questions to answer. So ask away. You want me to talk about anything other than my tea bags? Actually, what I will do while we're waiting is I'll just go through, this comes up every single day on lives, is my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. What is your OCU? What's OCU mean? Is that OCU? I'll look that. Is that an acronym for something, or is it rude? Sometimes I'll say something out loud and it's rude, but I don't even know it. Don't know what that means. Okay. Occupation. Oh, I'm a parenting coach. Okay, so I'm going to read up my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers because this comes up every day. I read this out every day in a live. It comes up, and it's just some good points. This is under the age of 3. You childproof your home so you never have to say no. You set up a toy rotation system so your kids are never bored. Number 3 is you connect with your toddler in their world, not in your world. You don't go to the nail salon with a 2-year-old to connect with them. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. When you get good at entering their world, they just look at you differently. You're connecting with them. Number 4 is when you're disciplining a toddler, don't do the mini therapy sessions, all the words and discussing what they should and shouldn't do. They're not listening to you. It's about consistent corrective actions. That is their world. It's kind of like you connect with them in their world, you discipline with them in their world. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. So they may seem crazy, and really it's just that they haven't developed sanity yet, okay? So, okay. Alrighty. When parenting an only child, do you have to do anything differently? I don't know. I'm not an only child, but my brother and I, there's like 16 years between us, so it's kind of like we're both only children. And because I was raised in the house with 3 adults. And then he got married and moved out, and I think I was 8 or something when he was. So yeah, I was kind of raised alone. Just make sure that there's lots of other kids around. Like back in the day when I was raised in the 60s, the whole streets were just lined with kids every day after school. So there was always tons of other kids around. That's the only thing. that I would say is just make sure they have it. You know what though? I think because I was an only child, it is in my nature to be very fussy, and everything I own, it like looks new forever, for decades. All my furniture is like 40 years old. I just keep painting it and all that. I look after everything. And I remember when I'd have friends come over, no one was as careful with their stuff as I was. So I guess being an only child, I wasn't used to having siblings wrecking my stuff. That I found difficult. So I learned to put away the precious stuff and then only get out stuff that they couldn't break and wreck. So I just remember that as a child. Okay. High functioning 3-year-old ASD, okay, autism spectrum disorder. I don't discuss autism online here. I only discuss it in coaching because it's kind of a specialty, and there's too many exceptions with autism, so I can't really. It is different, by the way. Well, yes and no. You're sort of the same parent, but some of the methods you have to get more creative with, okay? So yeah. And it depends. Some of them, I won't go into it, but there are just so many exceptions, and they're all so completely different. There are some similarities, but a lot of it is just trial and error. So yeah, anyway, if you want my help with your autistic child, you have to hire me for coaching. That's one-on-one. Okay. My 2-year-old throws the baby's toys. Do I take them? Her toys, we usually take it and say, no, put away. I would you have to sort of get on. Okay. When they're going through a stage, and they will go through stage after stage after stage, just when you think you got one figured out, they're going to find a new annoying stage. So what you do is right now, if they're grabbing the baby's toys, you just be right there as much as possible and you say no. As soon as they take a baby's toy, I would put one of their toys away. Not the baby's, but the toddler's toys away. But you got to be diligent. It's consistent corrective actions, okay? And the main word in there is actions, really, but consistent. Yeah, you got to be consistent. It's hard. Toddlers are cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains, and they're just going to go through stage after stage after stage. Toddler won't drink water anymore, 18 months old. That's more of a nutrition kind of thing, and I don't really discuss that. Okay, I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor, so I don't really discuss that. What do you include in your coaching? It's just Zoom one-on-one with me. It comes up. The difference with coaching and everything else is I get to know you, and I work off your strengths and your weaknesses. So I figure what those are pretty quickly. You're pretty good at exposing yourself pretty quickly. Don't waste your money and hold anything back. Sometimes I'll work with people, and like 3 weeks later, they'll say, oh yeah, one thing I was too embarrassed to tell you. And it was something really important. I say, and then they're embarrassed, and I say, I've heard it before. Like, it's not, just let it all fly, and then we get to work. So yeah, that's my favorite thing in my business is coaching, because I get to know people. You're talking about your toddler who's wiping stuff on the wall. I don't know how old they are. You didn't put down the age, so I can't comment on that. But for some toddlers, that's completely normal. They don't all do that, but some of them do. They're going to try stuff, right? Okay. Yeah, Kaylee, I can't answer this. It's a legal thing, so I can't answer that, Kaylee. You'd have to ask a lawyer about that. I haven't had kids yet. I'm 27 and want to have 2 after getting married next year. Love your info. Great. Okay, just keep watching if you want to prepare for parenting. It's messy. Life is messy. It's not about perfection. It's about doing a pretty good job. You're going to mess up. That's why there's a behavior board with you on it too, because you have to learn to be accountable. You're setting an example for your children. It's not about the authority, my way or the highway. I know everything. I certainly never set myself up as a know-it-all with my kids, for sure. But I was a leader, very much so. So if they came to me with a problem from a really young age, I'd say, yeah, that's a problem. What are you going to do about it? Let's figure it out together. So we work things through together. A leader brings out the best in kids. You don't want obedient little soldiers. I had no interest in that. I wanted my kids to have a voice and feel heard, but also they were extremely respectful because I respected them. I was accountable. 11-year-old son never listens and talks back. Yeah, that just says that you're not a leader. He doesn't respect you. So work on your leadership skills. My boot camp course is on sale right now for Black Friday. It ends on the 27th. So you might want to check that out. But yeah, it sets you up as a leader. And thank you so much for this valuable information. It's funny, I say the same thing every single day. And sometimes when I'm talking, I don't even hear myself. And then I'll finish a sentence and I'll think, did I say that right? Like I literally said the same thing, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. But every so often I'll get a really different question. And then I listen to myself. But yeah, I do love what I do. When you love what you do, it's just kind of a joy to do it, right? The back end stuff I could give a big fat miss to, but I love it when I'm talking to parents. Can you give advice for helping kids regulate with ADHD 5? Yeah, that's that kind of terminology I don't use. You don't help kids regulate. Yeah, you can't really do that. Check out my behavior board. Check out my boot camp course. The behavior board is completely free. The boot camp course obviously is a lot more extensive, but it's on sale right now. Teaches you how to be a leader. When you're a leader, children tend to calm down. I never worked with kids who were easy. I worked with kids who had ADHD, WXYZ, whatever. I used to call them alphabet kids. Those are all the kids I learned all this on. I knew how to lead, and when you lead, they will follow. It's just the way it is. He's only 5. The height of your leadership is from 3 to 12 years old. That's why that boot camp course is 3 to 12 years old. They're very different at that age, but your parenting is the same in that you're very much the leader. You can't be the leader with a 2-year-old because they're crazy. And then when they're 13 and above, you want to sort of pass the torch over to them so they can be their own leaders, right? Teenagers are my favorite age. I started my business specializing in teen crisis work. Once you know how to get respect, mutual respect going with a teenager, they actually are a lot of fun. The problem is most parents don't adjust their parenting style. I'm going to read out the 4 stages of parenting that we go through. 4 stages of parenting. Okay, so the first one, now this has nothing to do with the kids. This is about you. So as a parent, the first stage you go through is 0 to 15 months. It's just all nurturing, getting used to having a baby, getting used to getting up in the middle of the night, cleaning up barf and poop and all that. That's just the first stage, but it's a lot of just connecting with them. Then you go into the parenting a toddler stage, 16 to 35 months. You're starting to teach them right from wrong by using consistent corrective actions, but there's a lot of play, a lot of connecting, and there always is, by the way. Most of parenting is about connecting and bonding with your kids. Then you go into the full leadership mode when you've got a child 3 to 12 years old. I put tweens in there too, by the way. 3 to 12 years old. And that's at the height of your leadership. You lead, they will follow. They're watching every move you make and they want to please you. When you're a good leader, they want to please you. They're learning. They need a leader. Okay. Now, then you go into the 4th stage. That's the teenage stage. That's when you start to back off. And the 3 top tips for parenting a teenager, got those written down too, because sometimes I forget what I'm saying. This is what people struggle with, is they don't change their parenting style when they get a teenager. Okay, the first one is you listen to understand. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it. They already know it anyway. When you get good at this, what I call silent listening, they're going to tell you everything. And then the second one is negotiate pretty much everything with the teenager. This is what a lot of parents get wrong. I want dirty clothes in the hamper. I want them in now. This is what I would say. I want your dirty clothes in the hamper. What do you want from me? You negotiate pretty much everything, and it gets fun. They appreciate that. So you negotiate pretty much everything with a teenager. And then the third one, and this is really important, is you don't sweat the small stuff. They're going to make mistakes just like you did. If they make a big one, that's different. You save your energy for the big stuff, but don't sweat the small stuff. If they do something stupid and it's not a big deal, just say, that was stupid. Wait to hear what I did when I was your age. Be relatable. It's okay to make mistakes. Life is full of mistakes. It's not that you don't want them to make mistakes. You want them to learn from them and move forward, okay? So that's my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. My top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. I go through the same things all the time. I end up saying it wrong. Okay, she's 4. She was constipated, and she's the one smashing poop on the wall. Yeah, that's that. You have to hire me for that one. The reason is I don't want to give standard advice for that. I don't know why she's doing it. I'd have to figure that out. I need to assess the situation before I can give you an answer, because there could be many different reasons why she's doing that, okay? Especially if she was constipated before. I don't know what's going on there. So yeah, you'd have to hire. If you want my help with that one, you'd have to hire me. That's in the link above. Kids will be kids. We were all kids and must relate. Yeah, be relatable with your kids. I told a lot of funny stories about things that I did when I was a kid. They love that stuff. But yeah, what I don't like is when people say kids will be kids when they're acting out. I don't like that. I think it's just an excuse for parents to not discipline. But yeah, we were all kids and we all make mistakes. That's normal too. But yeah, don't overuse that. Obviously, if they're acting out, oh, well, kids will be kids. You know what they're going to do? They're going to kick everyone in the head. That's a kid. They're just kids. I had a friend who used to talk like that, and her kid was kicked out of school after school after school because he was so rotten. Oh, well, boys will be boys. Yeah, okay. 18-month-old won't use words. Well, some kids don't talk till they're 3. If you're really concerned, go to a pediatrician or a doctor and ask them about it. But some don't talk till they're 3. So it's not that uncommon. Yeah, I have 2 under 2. How do you get the 2-year-old to understand, or the 2 under 2? Well, the toddler to understand when you got to feed a baby? You can't explain that to them. You can't. It's just they're just going to understand through repetition. That's why I talk about consistent corrective actions, because they learn through repetition. They're just going to learn after a while, but you can't explain that to a toddler. You can't. By the way, we have a new baby in the house. When you were little, I had to feed you, and they're just like, they're not listening. So yeah, you can't explain that to them. They'll learn eventually. Okay, well, my 2.5-year-old wants to be carried around the store, but he's heavy, throws a fit if I don't. Oh, you're going to hate my answer. What's he doing being carried? Why is he not in a stroller or in the shopping cart? I don't know why you're carrying them. So what if he throws a fit? That's a perfect example of a child in charge. If you're afraid of a fit, a scene, or a tantrum, your child is completely in charge. They are leading you by the nose ring. So if a kid was going to have a fit with me, I'm like, bring it on. This is where all the lessons are. This is where all the gold is. If I was afraid of a tantrum, I would never have gotten anywhere with kids. I'm like, bring it on. Yeah, bring it on. That's their process of learning. They're not going to get everything, what they want, when they want, and how they want it. They're not in charge. So yeah, if you're afraid of a fit, they're in charge. You have to embrace that. I've got lots of stories on how to handle tantrums. I have a course on that too, if you're interested. Toddler tantrum busting. It's all in the link above. Okay, my son has DMDD. I'm not a doctor or anything, so I don't know some of these. I don't even know what that is. Although I know I've looked it up before. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't want to say what I'm thinking. My regulars probably know what I'm thinking. Yeah, it's okay. Disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. It's kind of like ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. It's not really a medical diagnosis. It just means that they're just feistier. I've worked with all those kids, all the feisty kids. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. That's all you can do. Your leadership skills is how you deal with that. Yeah. Remember, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. So if you're a leader, I worked with all those kids. Those are all the kids I worked with. Do you think anyone ever handed me an easy kid? Here's an easy one, Lisa. No, this is what I got. Good luck with this one. I got all those kids. Those are the ones I learned all this on. My kids were easy. I got respect when they were tiny because I had tons of experience with kids before I had my own. So I got respect when they were tiny and sailed right through the teen years. I learned all this from working with other people's kids who did have all these challenges. How do you control yourself when they're in full tantrum mode? That's kind of tricky. The thing is that the reason why I'm so calm when they have a fit, a scene, or a tantrum is because I know that's where the lessons are. That's where the gold is. Because when they see how calm I am when I'm ignoring them during all those fits and scenes and tantrums, then I know on the other end of that, there's a rainbow. Not the first time. They're probably going to get worse before they're going to get better. But because I know it works, that's what keeps. And I got tons of experience. I'm old too. I've got tons of experience with kids. But I always kind of knew to never react to that stuff. I remember I first started babysitting when I was 11. And I quickly gained a reputation of being good with the difficult kids because I never fed any of that stuff. In my tantrum course, one of the sections is how to grocery shop with a toddler. And I said, you never want to let them out of that shopping cart and you never want them to help you. There's no point. What's the point? What I did was I had a shopping cart goodie bag and I put it in my toddler's bag, put them in the shopping cart, then they got the goodie bag. They never got it unless they were sitting in that shopping cart. It opened like this at the top, so it'd sit in their lap and it had new toys in there every day, just cheap stuff that I'd buy and I'd rotate it. It wasn't all new stuff, I'd just rotate it. So every day we went out shopping, I'd have the goodie bag filled up and it had like a little drink, a little healthy snack. And then they were like eye level with me. If you allow them to have freedom once, they'll never forget it. They'll want to run around every single time. And it's also a mixed message. So, it's okay to run around sometimes, but not others. So when you're in a mood, you'll sometimes let them out. You're inconsistent. They don't respect you. They just don't get it. It's a mixed message. Also, I'm allowed to help put the Kleenex in the back, but not the eggs. They don't get that. You're inconsistent. They're either going to be able to help with everything or nothing. They're either going to be able to run around the store wildly all the time or never. So my kids knew when we went grocery shopping, they sit in that shopping cart and they get the goodie bag. As soon as they got out of it, that goodie bag went away. They never saw that other than when they were sitting in that shopping cart. So that prevented the scenes, and it made shopping with them really easy because they just knew I was consistent. It's the lack of consistency with toddlers that throws them off. A lot of parents say, "Why are they so awful? I gave them the Kleenex to put away, but then they screamed when I wouldn't give them the eggs." Yeah. But how on earth are they going to understand, a 1.5-year-old going to understand that eggs are more fragile than toilet paper? I can't help you if you don't think it through. Think that through. If you were like 1.5 years old, you just got something to put in the back and you don't get the next thing, you're like, what's going on? They look at you like you're nuts. Then they have a fit and you can't figure it out, right? Okay. My 3-year-old is suddenly waking 2 hours later at night, crying hysterically as sleep regression. Is this a sleep regression? I don't know. I'd have to assess that if you really want a good answer with that. But a lot of children do go through sleep stages. But what I find can help is those sound machines, the one that sound like a heartbeat. So it's like they're in the womb. Evidently adults like it too. But yeah, one of those sound machines or the galaxy light. So when they do wake up, they might wake up and then just hear that noise and it might soothe them right back. It tends to regulate them, like their brain goes, oh, okay, I know where I am. It helps to regulate their memory, like they just kind of know where they are. It gets them in the moment quicker. You can give that a go. 23-month-old starting to throw fits. I ignore all of them. Not if they get violent. Otherwise, you do ignore them. And you don't ignore them in a restaurant, though. You take them out to the parking lot so they don't disturb other people. The only time I ever give in to tantrums, and I strongly suggest you give in and do whatever they want, is when you're on an airplane, because that's not fair to other people. So yeah, I used to do long haul flights with kids from Canada to Australia because we lived there in Australia for a long time. And yeah, you do whatever you got to do to keep them quiet. So, but yeah, I've got tons of videos on ignoring tantrums and how you do it. It's not, you don't just walk out and leave them. It's not like that. You got to be right there so they can see you, like you're waiting for a bus. You don't look at them or talk to them. As soon as they're done, oh, you all done? Okay, let's get going. Don't discuss a tantrum before, during, or after. There is no point whatsoever. I know those mini therapy sessions discussing all the big feelings and regulate their emotions and all that garbage. I know it's trendy right now, but that stuff was invented to feed the mom's needs. Has nothing to do with the toddler. It's all about the mom. I saw that pleaser parent style coming in 30 years ago. It started with participation awards. And I remember thinking, oh God, we're in trouble. How dumb is that? You just turn up and you get an award. Nowadays, you see stuff like this. You didn't validate my feelings. Well, I'm just a bus driver, lady. Like, that's what you're raising. It's just this self-entitled snowflake with mental health issues. Yeah, I saw that coming. I couldn't believe it took hold. But it was feeding the mom's needs. That's why it took hold. I figured that out a long time ago. It was trying to avoid a scene all the time. And you can't do that. You're trying to appease the kids and give them whatever they want to avoid a scene. And it's just a total disaster. They end up growing up with no discipline, no leadership, no guidance. And they're just snotty. They wipe their feet all over you. It's just awful. I'm exaggerating, but that's what I do. That's okay. Do you let your 1-year-old cry it out if they won't go to sleep at bedtime? It depends. If you know you're meeting their needs and managing their wants, are they dry? Are they full? Are they, you've got to make sure that you're meeting their needs. So then when you put them down, have they slept too much during the day? Both my kids stopped regular naps at 12 months old, both of them. They were easy kids to be around, so it was okay. They weren't super hyper kids or anything, so it didn't bother me a bit. But they would have a lot of accidental naps. But yeah, is your child already had enough sleep and they're just not that tired? I don't know. You'd have to figure that all out. If you want my help with that, like when I have to do assessing a situation and I need to know context around it, that's coaching. You'd have to hire me for that. When I get upset with my daughter, she says, Mom, I'm mad. Yeah, okay. I don't show anger. To me, a discipline is a business transaction. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of cute that she says that, but I don't like to show anger. My son used to say, if my mom ever whispers, run, because that's what I'm disciplining. I get real quiet and real calm. The rest of the time, I'm very loud. I feel that now with my teen, he doesn't care about what I talk. Okay, so if you're having problems with your teenager, I don't have any courses on teenagers. You'd have to hire me to teach you how to connect with your teenager and get that mutual respect going. I can't answer this. If dad doesn't respect mom, will that influence a preschool age child not to respect mom too? Could very well do. Yes. But I don't know. I don't know the situation. Why doesn't dad respect mom? You know, that's obviously a marriage issue. So, yeah, that kind of stuff comes up in coaching a lot. I don't discuss that on here because I don't know your situation. So, sometimes I'm hired for adult stuff, but I don't do that. But people get sneaky. They talk about parenting every so often during a session, but really a lot of it is just adult problems. Um, and I've told them, I said, no, I don't discuss that. And sure enough, they sneak it in. A lot of stuff comes up in coaching. I'm old, so I've got some wisdom, in the background there. Okay. 6-year-old having really problematic impulse control and huge blowout meltdowns, never know how to handle. Okay, that says to me that you're not a leader, because when you're a really calm leader, it could be something else, but generally I'd work on my leadership skills anyway if that was happening. Whenever I've worked with kids who were like, just that way inclined, I had to work extra hard on my leadership skills because that calms them down. When you're a calm leader, a strong leader, and you also mix it with fun and humor and all that stuff too, all the good stuff. But when you get good at leadership, it calms them down. So we're not fixing kids here. We're fixing and teaching parents. If you've got your leadership all cemented and settled and they're still going through that, then you'd have to hire me. But if you learn how to be a leader and that's still happening, then I would look into something else. Anyway, my boot camp course, 3 to 12-year-olds, it's on sale right now, Black Friday, just over the weekend. So check that. That might be for you. But yeah, set yourself up as a leader, get the mutual respect going, and that should calm down. If not, there's other stuff going on, and then that would be coaching. Oh, I did something new at the gym this morning, and I'm having a hard time with my arm. I live in Sweden and is not so good to write in English. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people have second language. I'm just stunned that anyone can speak another language. Like I couldn't. I have problems I've tried to learn another language, and evidently I can't do it. Like my brain does not go sideways. So I'm always impressed when someone's got another language. God, good on you. I wish I could do that. I've tried. I actually got kicked out of French immersion. I paid a fortune for it back when I was in my 20s. I thought, I'm going to learn French. I'm just going to do it. I was horrible at it. And they ended up kicking me out. They gave me a full refund. They said, you've got that kind of brain that I can't go sideways. Like I'm a straight line thinker. It's really weird. So yeah, I so admire when people can speak another language. A lot of my clients are around the world, and I have a hard time understanding them, but they say they can always understand me, but I can't always understand what they're saying. I'm getting better at it. But yeah, so good for you. I wish I could speak another language. My 4-year-old daughter doesn't react to discipline. She just shrugs her shoulders and says sorry. So that's her get out of jail free card. Is that what she thinks? So you've emphasized the word sorry. I just did a video on that, and I said, what was it? Oh, no, that was a different subject, but it was like, do you get your toddlers to say sorry? But she's older. And I said, no, because there's no point. I never got kids to say they were sorry until they were old enough to understand it. I had about 3. But under that, I didn't bother. Like, there's no point. You can do it if you want, but there's not really any point. But I'm going to read, okay, you got to work on your leadership skills. If she doesn't react to discipline, it's because you're not doing it very well. They all react to leadership. I've worked with hundreds of kids, and I've never had a problem getting respect. And I always work with challenging kids. So yeah, it's your leadership skills. You lead, they will follow. It's just a natural reaction for children to follow a leader. It's just the way it is. Anyway, I'm going to tell you there's 4 steps to apologizing. This is a little bit off topic, but no one seems to know how to apologize very well. They just say sorry, and that's the end of it. But you killed my whole family. I said I was sorry. Like the word sorry is like this get out of jail free card these days. It's overused. Anyway, there's 4 steps to a proper apology. Say you're sorry just to get the ball rolling. That's all I care about. Number 2 is you take full accountability, full responsibility. Don't say, sorry, I did that, but if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have had to. You know how people just all of a sudden you're like, is that an apology? The third one is you say, what can I do to make it up to you? You make amends. So say you're sorry, take full responsibility for what you did, then make amends. What can I do to make it up to you? And then the fourth one is don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. The word sorry, like I've worked with kids, and I know adults who've done this too. Sorry, they're like an hour late. Sorry, and they kept you waiting. Sorry. And then I never say it's okay. I never do. I go, oh, well. And they're always thrown off by that. Like I don't go, that's okay. I never do. Where's the amends? Where's the amends? Where's the regret? Where's the you really are sorry about it? That one word means nothing to me. But yeah, teach your children how. It's funny because I've always said I'm very good at apologizing, and my son's very funny. He said that's because you've had so much practice. Good one. Okay. Yeah, I can understand, but not so good on to answer. Yeah. So if English is your second language or fourth language or whatever, yeah, everyone can understand me. Whenever I get someone with a strong accent when I'm coaching them on Zoom, I yell at them because I think they're deaf. And I'm like and they'll often say to me, I can hear you and I can understand you perfectly. I just don't speak English perfectly. I do it every time. It's hilarious. I do it every time. I'm just such a doofus. Okay. What's the best way to handle autism? Oh, yeah, I don't discuss autism on here. That's a specialty. I only discuss that in coaching because I have to assess the situation and decide what has worked in the past with your child, what are their strengths and weaknesses, what are their specific challenges, and then we move forward from there. It's never one session because we have to test stuff out. We try stuff in the first week, and then the next week I see what has worked and what hasn't. So yeah, autism is only for coaching. Check out the link above if you want to work with me on that. Oops, I've been on here for half an hour. I'm going to switch over to Instagram now. I do 30 minutes on each. So if you want to join me on Instagram, please do. And also check out the link. There's a sale on right now in the boot camp course. That's the one, Learn How to Get Respect in 5 Weeks, 3 to 12-year-olds. So that's all in the link above. Anyway, I'm over to Instagram now if you want to join me. And YouTube, I'm on the whole hour. So yeah, I got a couple people on YouTube. Instagram, here we go, and done. Okay. Just waiting for people to turn up. Hello. Did you come over from TikTok or are you just here? Whoops, I live downtown traffic. So I was just on TikTok for 30 minutes and now I'm on here for 30 minutes and I'm on YouTube for the whole hour. I don't know why. Can you see me? Because I can't see me on here. Can you see me? My picture? That's never happened before. I can't see myself. Came from TikTok. Excellent. Can you see my picture? Oh, so you can see me. Your hair looks so pretty. Thank you. This is my gym workout hair in the winter. Gosh, it's cold. Oh, you can see me. Okay, I can't see myself, which is fine by me anyway. Okay, so you can start with your parenting questions. By the way, there's a sale on right now on my boot camp course. That is the big course, 3 to 12 years old. It's a 5-week course teaching you how to get respect. Thanks. I'm glad you can see me. It's not showing up on there. Isn't that interesting? Why would that be? That's never happened before. Anyway, so yeah, and also the behavior board is up there. That's completely free. The mini toddler courses and the coaching information is all up above in the link. What's my background? Okay, well, I'm a parenting coach. I have no certificate or no training or anything other than I've worked with kids for 52 years. It's throwing me off that I can't see myself, but you can see me, right? Okay. Yeah, I'm getting dizzy because it's just a black screen. I've never seen that before. Anyway, when I was 11 years old, I started volunteering in daycare centers. And that's where I started learning. I just always kind of knew how to get respect with kids. So that was my background. Then I worked in hospitals, psych wards, schools, in homes. I got government clearance to go into homes and support parents there. I just always was good at leading kids. I understood kids, period. I'm not good at a whole bunch of things, but kids always came easy to me. And then when I was it's all volunteer, by the way. And then when I was working with mentoring troubled teens, they're the ones who said, Lisa, you got to teach this. So they're the ones who told me to go into this. And then like 25 years later, I did. I didn't know there was, I thought, how do you teach parenting? Oh, I was going to be a child psychologist. I did take a prerequisite course and they kicked me out because I asked too many questions. This was 42 years ago. And I was 20, so 43 years ago, because I was 20. And then the other students started asking me questions too. What they were teaching back in the day was garbage. It was this authority, I know more than you, holier than thou, kind of authoritative kind of crap. And I hated it. So it was stupid, so patronizing. I'm sure they've improved all that. Plus, imagine if I was under some umbrella where I had to follow what other people talk about with kids, which I don't agree with a lot of it. Yeah. Also, I want to specify that I teach through experience, right? 52 years of experience of working with kids. And my way is not the only way. I'm not arrogant. I think there's lots of different ways of dealing with children. I just teach what's worked really well with me for 52 years. Because my main thing with kids is to connect with them and bond with them. Okay, so then the discipline is a tiny part of it. But it works really well for me. But it's got to be a package. If you were to pick and choose different methods from different people, like if you were to throw timeout into my methods, it was tank. I hate timeout. I think it's mean. So yeah. So you got to go pick a path. If you're going to follow some parenting advice, pick a path and go with that one person for 3 weeks, follow their advice. If it's not working, go on to someone else and follow them. It's like dieting. You can't pick and choose what you like from different people because they will often contradict each other. Like I said, I hate timeout. I think it's patronizing and mean. And if you were to throw timeout into what I teach, it wouldn't work because I teach give respect to get it. 2-year-old not talking, should I be concerned? I don't want to tell you whether or not you should, because if you're concerned, you should always go to a doctor. But I've known kids who don't talk to their 3, and then they never shut up when they do. Parents complain, then they start talking and say, God, it was great when they didn't talk. So yeah, it's not unheard of that they don't talk at 2. But if you're really concerned, you go to a doctor, because I can't diagnose that. How do you handle fights between cousins when other parents don't do anything? Cousin grabbed my daughter aggressively. That's a tough one. I don't have any great advice on how to tell other parents how to parent, like how you tell other, because I never did. I never told my friends how to parent. They never told me how to parent. We minded our own business, right? But if they were hurting, if I had another kid that was hurting my kids and the parent didn't know what to do, I would dump those friends. But if it's a cousin and you have to see them, I would say, look, our kids don't get along. Have you got any suggestions? So put it in their butts. Just see what they say. See what they come up with. Oftentimes, parents who have aggressive kids don't know how to deal with it, so they just turn a blind eye if they don't see it. That's what they do. They don't know what to do. And don't buy, for Christmas, please don't buy my coaching sessions for other people. Yeah, it's not always appreciated. It happens. But yeah. Okay. My twins who are 4 years old fight a lot. What do you recommend to mitigate their fights? Yeah, just keep separating them. Take one out at a time and then the other one. Also, teach them how to share. I tell this swing story with share. I have a couple swing stories. One's about tantrums. The other one's about sharing. But you got to teach them how to share too, how to get along. So let's say there's one swing and you got 2 kids and you say, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to flip a coin to see who goes first. Then whoever goes first gets 1 minute on the swing. And then when the timer goes off, then the other one gets 2 minutes. So the first turn, it's fun to get, but you only get half a turn. And then every turn after that is 2 minutes. Come up with systems and stuff like that and rules so that they can learn how to do that themselves. So they can say here, and give them a timer and stuff. Give them ways of timing themselves. So I could tell you a million different ways to teach kids how to get along and stop fighting. That's just one of them. So you keep separating them for 10 minutes at a time, and then you can try that, showing them how to get along and how to share. But yeah, it takes a while. Okay, good question. I'm new to following you, so I might learn along the way, but I'm curious what consistent corrective actions look like with toddlers. Examples. Okay, so I always say under the age of 3, it's not about words, or you can't use the behavior board until they're 3 years old. It's about consistent corrective actions. So they have a toy and they hit with it, you say no, and you take that toy away, and very visually, you put it somewhere they can see it but can't touch it. Depending on the age and how special that toy is, maybe just for 10 minutes, maybe for the rest of the day, I don't know. You got to judge that for yourself. But it's taking action right away, but it has to be fast, right in the moment. You can't say, as soon as I finish dinner, then I'll do something. You can't do it. It has to be right in the moment. Toddlers don't have any foresight. They don't stop and think, but they go through repetition. So if you do that every time they hit, they will eventually learn. Or if they bang something, then you make sure that you say no and you take them away from that thing for a few minutes or something. But yeah, they will eventually learn. But yeah, that's the best one, is when they use something as a weapon, you say no and you put it away where they can see it. and let the scene happen. The scene is their brain processing, hey, wait a minute, I can't get everything I want. You have to embrace the fit scenes and tantrums. People are so afraid of that, and that's why they can't discipline their kids, and their kids are out of control. They're so busy trying to avoid a scene that they end up with these kids who are totally out of control, and they can't figure out why. It's because you were so afraid of the scene. Kids picked up on that, and now all of a sudden they took over. They know you're afraid of them. Whereas to me, if I'm working with a kid and they're going to have a scene, I'm like, bring it on. Because that's where all the lessons happen. That's where all the gold is. That's their brain processing. I can't get what I want, when I want, and how I want it. You always meet their needs and manage their wants. The discipline is the need, the wants, not the needs. Feel like I'm losing control over my 18-month-old. What should I be focusing on most? By the way, you're not alone. Lots of people struggle. Lots of people. I have a business who's dependent upon that. So you're not alone. And a lot of my clients a huge portion of my clients actually are teachers, principals, and child psychologists. I couldn't do their job. Parenting is different from any other role. It's personal. That's why, especially a child psychologist, I can usually figure out pretty quick what they do for a living because their vernacular is, I say, are you a child psychologist? And they go, yeah. And but usually it's teenagers with them. It's not that they're struggling more than anybody else. It's that they're perfectionists. They want to get it right, okay? And they're learners. They really want to learn how to do this. But anyway, parenting is different from any other role. Like I couldn't do their jobs at all. And they struggle with parenting. Parenting always came easy to me. That's why I'm teaching it. Okay, so my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. You've got an 18-month-old. You feel like you're losing it. Here's my top 5 tips. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is you set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. I've got lots of videos on all this stuff. Number 3 is when you want to connect with your little one, you connect in their world. You don't go to the nail salon to connect with a 2-year-old. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Number 4 is similar. You discipline in their world also. It's not about words. It's about consistent corrective actions. All these mini therapy sessions discussing big feelings and big emotions, that feeds the mother's needs. It has nothing to do with the toddler. It's all about the mom. So yeah, that's just garbage. It's consistent corrective actions. That's how toddlers learn. And then number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They're crazy. They haven't formed sanity yet. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. They're just forming. Imagine if you've only been in the world for, well, yours is 18 months, and the first year they were a potato laying on a mattress. Like they have no context of the world yet. So yeah. And you go through stage after stage after stage. They're cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. They're my least favorite age, because toddlers are, because they're just constant worry. Every time you go out, you can't leave them alone for a second. You have to watch them everywhere you go. So that was my least favorite age. I love them at home. It was easy, piece of cake. And I loved having other friends with their kids over because my home was child-proofed. It was easy, right? But when I went out, I just had to follow them around everywhere, yeah. How do you handle independent toddler who doesn't want to hold hands or stay with me on outings? Well, that's an easy one. That I'm just going to read out. I've got a list of things. Okay, there's 4 annoying traits that kids are born with or they're not. One of them is running. They don't look behind, they just take off, and I'll get into how you manage that. The other one is tantrums. They're either going to have them or they're not. The other one is climbing. They're either going to climb and be really adventuresome. They might end up tomorrow's athletes or gymnasts. And then the last one is aggressiveness. They're either going to hit or they're not. My kid, I remember both my kids, another kid could just be pounding them. They would never fight back. So they just didn't have that in them. And I sometimes wish they had, because I think you just hit them back, God. But anyway, but yeah, what you do with runners is you put them on a harness when you're going out and bring a leash with you. And if they start to run, you say no, clip them in. And you leave them clipped in for the rest of that outing, okay? And they'll eventually learn not to run. They have to earn their freedom. So you give it to them when you first go out. Second they start to run, be ready for it, have it ready, and clip them in. Are they going to have a fit? Yes, but that's where the lessons are learned. If you're afraid of a fit, a scene, or a tantrum, they are the leader, for sure. Can't be afraid of your own children. If a kid is ever going to have a fit with me, I'm like, bring it on. That's where the lessons are learned. Okay. Yeah, you're asking me the impossible, but I'm going to read it out and tell you why. With the holidays here and family gatherings in full swing, how do you handle children, specifically a 3-year-old who gets overstimulated very easily and can't seem to control themselves? Nothing. That's a big ask. It's sort of like asking, what do I do if I drank a whole bottle of tequila and I want to be able to drive? I mean, there's just certain things that are inevitable. If they're going to get overstimulated, they're going to get wild. There's not much you can do about it. That's part of the whole scene. That's part of the holidays. Craziness, there's sugar going around, there's different foods, there's presents, there's people giving them attention. And you're asking me how to teach them how to sit and control themselves? Yeah, that's not doable. It's like the tequila with driving. So yeah, I have no advice at all. None. It's like, how do you fly with a toddler? I've done it. I've done long haul flights with toddlers, and yeah, I have no advice. Some things are just challenging. Okay, how do you handle teen cursing, yelling, being mean, disrespectful to parents? I don't single out problems with teenagers. What I do is I teach you how to bond with your teenager to get mutual respect going. It's all coaching. I can't generalize that. I don't know your relationship. How can I tell you what to do with a teenager unless I understand your relationship and I know where to start? And teenagers are always 5 sessions. Parents really hate me in that first session because I ask you to do stuff you're not going to want to do. But you have to sort of start from scratch. How do I explain this? You have to sort of clear the slate before we can get to work. And that's what parents don't like. So I'm not going to tell them that. Yeah, you have to. There's certain things you have to do with teenagers to drop down their defenses and to start to mend your relationship. Because if they're that disrespectful around you, you got to do some work, serious work on mending the relationship. So yeah, if you want my help with that, you'd have to hire me. I don't know where you're at with your teenagers, so I can't answer that. There's very little general advice with teenagers, but I will give you my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. But it's just general advice. That's why I don't have a course on teenagers. Maybe one day I will, but every family is so different. Like I give out almost completely different advice every time I work with parents of teenagers. Okay, number 1, and then my specialty, by the way, I love teenagers. Okay, number 1, parenting teenagers. Listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. If they want your advice, they'll ask for it. They already know it anyway, okay? So I call it silent listening. The better you get at this, the more they're going to tell you. They'll end up telling you everything when you're a good listener. You'll be a safe place to land. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything with a teenager. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? You negotiate. That shows respect. Number 3 is you don't sweat the small stuff with teenagers. Save your energy for the big stuff, because if something big happens, you want to have some energy for that. Let the small stuff go. In other words, let them make small mistakes. Don't ignore them. Point them out and say, well, that was stupid. Wait to hear what I did when I was your age. So it's okay to make mistakes, okay? So those are my 3 top tips for parenting teenagers. But yeah, I don't have a course on teenagers because the advice is so completely different with each family. Because it's all about you had all those years to build up a certain relationship. I have to assess it. It doesn't take me long, by the way. I have to assess your relationship and know what to pinpoint and what to work on. For how long do you put it away, and do you stay with them while they cry? So this is when a toddler has hit, I'm assuming, when a toddler has hit and you say no, you put the toy away, and you can just be hanging around. What you could do is, if they're absolutely having a fit, you could take out one of their favorite books. If they're like under 3, take out one of their favorite books and just sit and read it out loud to yourself. You can do that because he's just had a toy put away. So you can do that. Just sit and read, see if he joins you. If not, if he starts hitting you, then restrain him and stand up and maybe just wander back in the kitchen. You never look angry. You never look at them or talk to them if they're having a fit. Never. Because you don't want to feed it. Any attention is tantrum food. So just act as if nothing's happened. As they get older, this is something I role play with a lot of clients when I'm coaching. And I say, if you've got an older kid, let's say 7, 8, 9 years old, and they are coming at you, and they say, okay, and then you say, go to the behavior board, and you say, okay, you broke the rule, here's the consequence. Not fair, I hate you, I hate you. You got to get real good at this. This is what I'm looking at the behavior board, and then say, okay, you broke that rule, so now we're going to do this. And then they go, I hate you, not fair, this is what I would do. Whatever. Like, you can't allow them to manipulate you when they're mad. Now, if a child said he hated me, my kids never said that because there was no point. They didn't rebel ever. Because my son was 15 and he says, I could never rebel because you're too reasonable and easy to talk to. That's a leader, okay? They don't rebel against leaders. But you've got to understand that that's their process. If you're changing your parenting, things are going to get worse before they're going to get better. They're going to say some pretty nasty stuff as they get older when you're shaking things up. Yeah, and you just have to go, whatever, and let them process that. It's tough. It's one of the hardest things that my clients go through. Yeah. I sympathize with it, but At the same time, I know that on the other side, there's the rainbow. And I'm very, like, I always say, I know it's tough right now, but once it gets easier, you're going to go, geez, I get it. Like, once you do feel that leadership and you're friends with your kids and discipline is no big deal, it hardly ever comes up, you're going to go, oh, I get it. I get it. It's just easy. Getting discipline is hard work. Getting respect is hard. Not getting discipline. Getting respect is hard work. Setting yourself up is hard work. But maintaining it's a piece of cake. So it's only like, you got to go through the storm to get to the rainbow. But it's only like, 3 to 6 weeks, maybe 5 weeks before you really start to see it happening. Hi, what if toddlers have trigger words like no or wait, or toddlers start to have tantrums? So you mean they're in charge? So it's a trigger word. So you say the word no and instantly they have a tantrum. They have trained you very well. So I don't want to go into that because that would be a whole speech and I've only got like 10 minutes left. So say the word no and instantly they have a tantrum. They've trained you. Yeah. Because it must bother you. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. What if they push a kid at daycare 2.5? Do you remove them from playing? Yeah, absolutely. When they get, actually, I have a course on that. Toddlers who hit and bite, etc. It's for like under the age of 3, or about, I think 1 to 3. I put that down as. But yeah, it teaches you how to deal with that. So I think I'm going to sneeze. Yeah, you take action. Take the fun away from them. Remove them from the fun. Absolutely. Say no, remove them, let them have a fit. Parents are very afraid of walking into that storm. Man, I'd walk right into it. I have no fear of a fit, a scene, or a tantrum because that's where all the lessons are. So if you know they're going to have a scene when you take control, that is the lesson. That is where the magic happens. Everyone's afraid of the scene. I'm going to do a video on that. But to me, it's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. Because that is where the magic happens. Walking into the scene. I'll figure that I'll get a better title for that. I'll do a video on that. Oh, 1.5 hits you and laughs. It's not a real laugh, by the way. It's a testing laugh. So yeah, they hit you. You just say no, and then I would just get up and walk away. They'll eventually learn. It's a stage. But when you say no, you don't go, no. You just go, no. You get up and walk away. Like, don't treat it like a big deal. And they'll just be sitting there like that. But eventually they'll just stop doing it. They learn through repetition. They don't learn the first time at all. How to connect with a child that tells lies or exaggerates, try to connect. How do you address the lying while still, 7 years old? Just put no lying on, use the behavior board. That is completely free. It's in the link above, and put down no lying. And when they lie, there's a consequence, okay? But yeah, that's actually quite an easy one to deal with. And exaggerating is a lie, and withholding the truth is a lie. So, and then when you put down no lying, this child's 7, they can understand this. Say no lying, and then you put in brackets, I will decide when that is when you've lied. So that eliminates them from arguing. Say, I've decided. And then they might even say, as they get older, they might, but that really wasn't a lie. And say, well, I'm sure you've lied in the past and I've missed it. So this is making up for that. Like, just take charge. You decide when they're lying. By the way you decide if you're not sure is you say, can you please tell me exactly what happened? And you write it all out. An hour later, maybe 2 hours later with a 7-year-old, can you tell me that again? If they're lying, they'll change the story. As they get older, they get better and they won't. But at 7 years old, they'll change the story. They're going to try and fix the lie up and make it even better. Don't tell them what you're doing, though. Don't say, oh, you changed the story. Now I know you're lying. So, yeah. Yes, I've heard you say this amazing advice. Thank you. I don't know what I said. Someone, God, I get some really smart clients sometimes. But what did she say? She said something. She goes, and she'd heard me say something on here, and she goes, that was a contradiction. And I said, I know, but now that I know you, there is sometimes I will twist things in coaching because I get to know people. And I say, now that I've met you and I know you, I would twist this a little bit. So I sometimes get called out because coaching is a little bit different from all my general advice on here. But yeah, oh God, she's smart. I get some really smart clients. Yeah. Just call me on everything. I love all that stuff. Okay. Do you think I should have a second baby? Oh, I don't know. At what age do tantrums start? I didn't really know what a tantrum is considered. Oh, you'll know when a tantrums happen. That's when they lose their nut, basically. That can start at birth. You know, the baby, my son had tantrums. And when he was a newborn, if he couldn't get on the boob right away and they'd be going like this trying to get on, and he had poor sucking reflex, both of my kids I had to use the shield with for the first few weeks because they both had weak sucking, born with weak sucking reflexes. If he couldn't get on there, he would just turn red and stop breathing, and he just couldn't handle it. And he was a newborn. Whereas my daughter would never do that. She never had a tantrum. So yeah, they can start, but a tantrum is when they lose their nut. They might throw themselves backwards. There's no thought process. It's like they can't see or hear. It's just the exact same as a temper. But as they get older, they learn how to manage that, hopefully. I have a 5-month-old baby. When's a good time to take your courses? If they're toddlers, not till they're about 1.5. Take the toddler courses. And then the big one, the 3 to 12-year-olds, that's a boot camp, which is on sale right now, by the way. It starts at the age of 3. But yeah, just keep watching for now. And plus, the more you hear all this stuff, the more prepared you will be for when they are like a toddler. That's when everything really kicks in. I do work with parents with babies too, but I don't get a lot of questions on that on here. My toddler is sick, so I let him sleep with me. Do you think this is okay? If they're sick, what do you mean, like permanently he's got some illness? You know, I was going to say all rules go out the door if they're sick, because you meet their needs and manage their wants. If they're just sick right now with a fever, I would have, for sure, I'd be sleeping with my kids. So yeah, if they're sick, that could be like, are they long-term sick and seriously ill? And then, I don't know that I'd need to assess the whole situation. But if they've just got a cold or something and not feeling well, yeah, I pulled my kids in bed with me. Yeah. How do you feel about crying it out for sleep training? So that's a baby when you let them cry it out. I did that with my kids, both of them. And it was only one night. But once you realize, wait, they're getting up and they're not even feeding. They're just playing in the middle of the night. I think they were 8 or 10 months when I did it. And they just would get up and play, and like it was playtime. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to sleep train. And I did it with both of them. I go in every few minutes and pat them on the back and say, it's okay, but they're like hanging onto the side of the crib. They're not calming down, but just to let them know I'm still there. Then I'd shut the door, go out on their door, and I'd sit up against their bedroom door and just cry into a pillow. So I don't know who was crying. So when you go sleep train, you let them cry it out. I cried it out. So while they were crying it out. It was only one night with each of them. Then it got easier, and I think they'd go maybe a little bit the next night. But yeah, I did it. I'm not saying it's great because it's a hard thing to do. But yeah, how long do you put the toy for a toddler? If he cries, you stay with him, and if he cries, you stay. I already answered that, I think. So yeah, if he hits with a toy and you put it away, yeah, I kind of like them to process that anger. I like them to learn how to deal with that. I don't interfere in that. But I might take a book and one of their favorite books and sit and read it. And if they want to crawl in my lap while we're reading, that's fine. But if they're having a scene and still screaming, I would just get up and leave the room. I'd let them deal with it. They got to learn. You can't go into someone's brain and regulate it for them. You got to let them learn how to regulate it themselves. They will learn. If you interrupt that process and keep getting involved in these fits and scenes and tantrums, they're never going to learn how to deal with it on their own. Okay, this is my personal opinion, but I have no real, great advice on this. You're saying that you have one child and you feel financially, mentally, you're done, that you've hit your limit. Why would you force yourself to have another child if you're happy with just having one? I don't think there's anything wrong with having one kid, 10 kids, no kids. I don't think that it's a personal choice. That's my opinion. You do what feels right to you. Don't let anyone tell you any different. You do what feels right to you. I'll tell you a story. Years ago, I knew this couple, and they'd been together for about 20 years, very happy, and all their friends had kids, so they decided to have kids. And they had a little kid, and were not happy as parents at all. So they thought, we'll have another one to keep the first one company. And then they had 2 really demanding kids who were very difficult because they knew they weren't loved as they should have been, and they were extremely messed up and demanding children. Perfect example of not everyone should have kids. And they were the nicest couple. They just loved each other, and they should never have had kids. And they admitted it right in front of the kids. Yeah, right in front of the kids. So yeah, kids aren't for everyone, and maybe you should just have 1 kid or 10 kids. Everyone's different, so no one can tell you that. No one can tell you that. Don't search out people's advice, um, except if they're very generous with if they're very empathetic with their answer. Because when you ask for, here's the thing: when you ask for someone, I'm very careful if I ask someone for advice. I don't ask anyone's advice if I think they're just going to tell me what they would do or what they think is right. I ask people for advice when they go, yeah, let me think, because this would be a good way, that would be a good way. I like people who have a very open mind. I do too. Like I don't tell people what to do. I'm not a bossy person at all. So like I never tell friends what to do or anything. But if they were to ask me, I go, yeah, that's a personal choice and everyone's different. I don't believe my way or the highway or that I know anything about life, really. I do understand parenting. But generally, yeah, you got to do what feels right to you. How do you discipline a child shows ADHD? That's where I learned all this. Those are the kids who taught me all this. So everything I talk about is for those kids. I didn't learn much with my own kids. They were quite easy, actually. And plus I had tons of experience, but those are all the kids, ADHD, WXYZ, I'll call them alphabet kids. Those are the ones that I learned all this. I've been working with those kids for 52 years. Delinquent teenagers, wild kids. Those are all the kids I learned how to lead. And that's why I teach this. If I only raised my own kids, I wouldn't feel qualified to teach this stuff at all. Because I could only relate to 2 kids. Whereas I've, done this with hundreds of kids and teenagers. So yeah, that's where I learned all this. Just keep watching. Which course of yours would you suggest for 4-year-old girl emotional learning? That's the boot camp course. Sorry, I live downtown. The boot camp course that is on sale right now. It's on the Black Friday sale till Monday. And that is from 3 to 12 years old. And it's not about the kids, really. It's all about you. But it has tons of stuff. I'll just read a couple of things it's got in there. I get itchy under this hat. I've been wearing it all day. Okay, the boot camp course. So it's 5 weeks long, and the first 3 weeks are behavior boards. And do not rush to week 4. Everyone wants week 4. Do not rush to week 4. That's when you get away from the behavior boards and you do in the moment discipline. I never used a behavior board. Behavior boards are a teaching tool. You're learning how to be a leader, so you learn with the behavior board. So yeah, in this course, I've got all sorts of lessons and then additional tips like parenting guilt, allowance, how you teach your children allowance, sex education, tantrums, and then you get homework each week. And then I also talk about ADHD and ODD, all that, bedtime battles, chores, media management, sibling rivalry, bullying, mealtime battles. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of stuff. Each week has different lessons. So what I suggest you do is if you're going to buy the course, read the whole thing first, because there's going to be a whole bunch of additional tips, like all those sex education and bullying and all that stuff that you may never need or you might need for the future. So it's a good thing to have like as reference throughout the years also. But yeah, it's 5 weeks long and it's on sale right now. So check it out. Anyway, okay, I've been on here for 30 minutes now. I split these in half now. I do TikTok and Instagram, 30 minutes on each. And the whole thing is on YouTube. That's where I save all these lives. And I think I figured out how to save them on Instagram now too. I'm not sure, but TikTok, they kind of poof, they disappear. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back again. I don't know when, but my regularly scheduled lives are Tuesday and Thursday nights. In the meantime, check out the link above for my sale on the boot camp course. I've got mini toddler courses, the free behavior board, and then coaching is the next level up from everything. That's one-on-one with me. It's all done on Zoom. Anyway, and if you're going to hire me for coaching, let it all fly in the first session so I know what I'm working with. It's really frustrating when people withhold something because they're embarrassed. I say, it's me. I've heard it all. So they'll withhold something, and it happens not that much anymore, but it used to happen more years and years. I've been doing this for a long time. And they'd say, oh, by the way, and they'd tell me something really important in like the third session. And I'm like, so don't hold back. I've heard it all. I need to know what I'm working with, and then we can move forward. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and I'll be back again soon. Happy parenting. Oh, and if you're American, happy Thanksgiving.